Hello, good evening, everybody. We were reading our book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and continuing with the reading, continuing with the reading of the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, we will have to look at what the rich dad, that is Mike's dad, was teaching both Robert Kiyosaki and Mike. All right. So we will continue with our reading. We will continue with the reading of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and Rich Dad was talking to the boys about two emotions driving the lives and the thought process and the thinking of most of the middle class and poor people. That is fear and greed or desire. Fear of not having enough money to do what they want to do. And once they have a lot of money, the fear of losing that money. Both the things will make them continue to work day and night and get caught up in the rat race. After explaining how fear influences their thought process or influences their lives, Mike's dad or the rich dad started explaining, had begun the explanation of how desire influences the lives and thinking of the young people or the minds of common people. So to start with, he asked them, if you remember, Mike's dad had given an offer of paying these boys $5 per hour for working on Saturdays, for working 3 hours on Saturdays. $5 per hour was the offer that Mike's dad had given in compromise for not learning. So they had a choice. Mike and Robert had a choice to either learn or get that $5 per hour. They intelligently, very rightly decided to learn. So Robert and Mike are being asked by Mike's father or the rich dad, how did you feel when I tempted you with a pay rise? Did you notice your desires rising? We nodded our heads. By not giving in to your emotions, you are able to delay your reactions and think. That is important. We will always have emotions of fear and greed. From here on in, it's imperative for you to use those emotions to your advantage and for the long term to not let your emotions control your thinking. Most people use fear and greed against themselves. That's the start of ignorance. Most people live their lives chasing paychecks, pay raises, and job security because of the emotions of desire and fear, not really questioning where those emotion driven thoughts are leading them. It's just like the picture of a donkey dragging a cart with its owner dangling a carrot just in front of its nose. The donkey's owner may be going where he wants to, but the donkey is chasing an illusion. Tomorrow, there will only be another carrot for the donkey. Pay attention to the very important thoughts being given here. See, the fear and desire are definitely there in everybody's mind. But if you don't give in to the fear and desire instantly, whenever you have fear, if you don't act on it immediately, or whenever you have the desire, you don't act on it immediately, and delay the reaction to the fear and desire, that will give you clarity of thought, what you should do, what you should not do, and all that. So we will always have emotions of fear and greed, is what Rich Dad is telling. Just think about it. You have the fear of examination, you have the fear of exams, and you decide to not go to the exam. If you have the fear of exam and in that instant fear, you decide to not go to the exams without thinking. So if you don't go to the exams, you will definitely fail. Failure is guaranteed if you don't go to the exams. But if you go to the exams, you might pass. There is a possibility of passing. The paper might be easy, or you might be able to answer just as many questions as are required to be answered for you to pass. That's a possibility. But in that instant fear, you might decide to skip the exams. Oh, see that? Fear is real, but immediate reaction to that fear and leading and taking that fear to an action which destroyed you would be bad. So, in that moment of fear, if you sit back and think, what am I doing? I am afraid of the exams. My mind is telling me to not go to the exams. But is that the right decision to make? Will I look back at it and feel proud of it, or will I be ashamed of it? Or would it be the right decision when I'm not having that fear? So the moment you start thinking about it, your mind will start getting a clarity. Your mind will start telling you there is fear of exams, you are not well prepared, but it is sensible to go to the exam and write it so that there is a possibility of passing. If you don't go, you will definitely fail. You see that? Rich Dad is telling from here on in, that is from now onwards, it is important for you to use those emotions to your advantage. And for the long term, to not let your emotions control your thinking. Fear and greed are used against people. Now, let's say there is you are in a room and there is some money that somebody drops. You know whose money it is. For a moment, your mind will tell you, "Let me take that money. Let me take that money and use it for myself." But you have seen that it has fallen from the pocket of a person there. He is walking away. Greed is gripping your mind. The greedy mind is telling you, take it. But if you think, if you don't get driven by that emotion, and if you think in that moment, you will develop the virtue of kindness. You will develop the virtue of honesty when you call the person from whose pocket the money dropped and give it back to him. You see this? Fear and greed are the two emotions which all of us have, which all of us will get it at some point of time or the other. But how to use it for our advantage? How can that turn into our advantage, or how it can destroy us? These two examples that I gave you will help you understand it. Greed, when somebody drops money and you have the option of either using it for yourself or giving it to the person to whom it belongs to, are the two possibilities. If you use it for yourself, you fall down as a person. Your conscience will tell you that you have done a wrong thing and you fall down. You will become weak as an individual. That is, the emotion of greed made you weaker, it destroyed you. But on the other hand, if you give it back to the person to whom that money belonged, then your mind will feel proud of it. You will develop the virtue of honesty, and honesty will give you strength. So the same greed as an emotion that came in your mind, one reaction was that which would destroy you eventually, and the other reaction is which will give you advantage. This is what Rich Dad is talking about. You mean the moment I picture a new baseball glove, candy, and toys, that's like a carrot to a donkey? Mike asked. Yes. And as you get older, your toys get more expensive, a new car, a boat, and a big house to impress your friends, said Rich Dad with a smile. Fear pushes you out the door and desire calls to you. That's the trap. So what's he telling? Fear will make you run away and desire will call you towards itself. Fear will make you run away and desire will call you towards itself. In both cases, you need to step back, think what is right and do it. So what's the answer, Mike asked? What intensifies fear and desire is ignorance. That is why rich people with lots of money often have more fear the richer they get. Money is the carrot, the illusion. If the donkey could see the whole picture, it might rethink its choice to chase the carrot. Now you see, where does this fear and desire become bigger? The fear and desire increase when there is ignorance. Ignorance is not knowing, not having knowledge is ignorance. So when there is no knowledge, we will have more fear and more desire. So rich people with a lot of money, if they don't have enough knowledge, they will have more fear than the people who don't have enough money. And they become more and more afraid as they become more and more richer. That is why they continue to accumulate a lot of wealth. Many times we ask the question of what will they do with so much of money? What will they do with 100 crores, 500 crores, 1000 crores? Are they going to use it? Are they going to eat it? No, they will not neither use it completely nor eat it. But it is the fear of losing it that makes them accumulate more and more. You see this? So that is like a carrot that is put in front of the donkey when the cart is being pulled by the donkey. If the donkey sees that it will never be satisfied with having that carrot, it will stop chasing that carrot and it will start doing what is necessary. Rich Dad went on to explain that a human's life is a struggle between ignorance and illumination. He explained that once a person stops searching for information and self knowledge, ignorance sets in. That struggle is a moment to moment decision to learn to open or close one's mind. So Rich Dad is bringing about two things. He's saying that life is always a contest. It's always a fight between two things. What are the two things which are which where between that the fight is going on? It is illumination and ignorance. Ignorance is darkness, not having knowledge. Illumination is light, having knowledge. So it is not a once in a lifetime decision that you make that I'll become knowledgeable or I will not take knowledge. It is not a once in a lifetime decision. It is a moment by moment decision. The moment you choose to ignore a possibility to gain knowledge, that is the moment you fall. The moment when you choose to use the opportunity to learn and you grow, that is the moment you become bigger. That is the moment you become more knowledgeable and you develop more possibility for better life and more success. So the moment you stop searching for knowledge, the moment you stop understanding things, ignorance will come in. The moment you start understanding things and search for knowledge and you are looking at everything and learning something from it, then your illumination starts. That is, you start becoming more and more knowledgeable. So the choice is whether to open the mind or to keep the mind closed. What we do in this half an hour every day, 30 minutes, 10 to 10:30 every night, is an attempt to open the mind, to give more and more light into our mind. Isn't it? The more light that comes into our mind, the more knowledge that will come into our mind, and the more and more knowledge comes in, the more stronger we become. So, very important to gain knowledge, to use every opportunity to gain knowledge. Now, you see, these kind of learning opportunities are there everywhere. You have a lot of learning possibilities on YouTube if you want to take it as an example. But how many people use the opportunity of having access to YouTube or such social media platforms to learn? It's a choice. You choose to learn or you choose not to learn. If your choice is to learn, you grow. If your choice is not to learn, you fall. So, all of you who have chosen to learn this half an hour every day is very powerful. The choice that you have made to learn for half an hour every day will make you grow very big. So, that is what Rich Dad is also telling. Let's continue. Look, school is very important. You go to school to learn a skill or profession to become a contributing member of society. Every culture needs teachers, doctors, mechanics, artists, cooks, business people, police officers, firefighters, and soldiers. Schools train them so society can thrive and flourish, said Rich Dad. Unfortunately, for many people, school is the end, not the beginning. I repeat, unfortunately, for many people, school is the end, not the beginning. There was a long silence. Rich Dad was smiling. I didn't comprehend everything he said that day. But as with most great teachers, his words continued to teach for years. I want all of you to think, what does this statement mean? He says, unfortunately, for many people, school is the end, not the beginning. When we talk about school, you should consider it as the formal education. In the context of India, school, plus two or pre-university, and graduation, the graduate schools that we go to pursue any of the degrees. Is that the end of education or is that the beginning of education? In that understanding lies how far we will grow in life. If you think completing the education in school is the completion of education, then there is stagnation. Life will stagnate. If we understand and realize that completing education or completing learning in the schools is the beginning of education for life, then we continue to learn for life, and that is what will make us grow. So, after the silence, Rich Dad continued, I have been a little cruel today, said Rich Dad. But I want you to always remember this talk. I want you to always think of Mrs. Martin, and I want you always to remember that donkey. Never forget that fear and desire can lead you into life's biggest trap if you are not aware of them controlling your thinking. To spend your life living in fear, never exploring your dreams, is cruel. To work hard for money, thinking that it will buy you things that will make you happy, is also cruel. To wake up in the middle of the night, terrified about paying bills, is a horrible way to live. To live a life dictated by the size of a paycheck is not really living a life. Thinking that a job makes you secure is lying to yourself. That's cruel, and that's the trap I want you to avoid. I have seen how money runs people's lives. Don't let that happen to you. Please don't let money run your life. These boys were thinking that Rich Dad was being cruel to them. He was not treating them well, he was not paying them enough, and lately he decided not to pay them also. Rich Dad says, I've been cruel to you. But what is more cruel is getting trapped in the struggle for money, continuously living in fear and not doing anything to fulfill our dreams. You might have a dream, you might have a dream to do something, but the fear that how will I make a living out of it will stop you from doing it, and that is cruel, is what Rich Dad says. Suddenly waking up in the night thinking that how will I pay the bill tomorrow? How will I pay my children's fees tomorrow? I have not paid the electricity bills. How will I do it tomorrow? That is cruel. Thinking that a job can make your life secure, that is cruel. If I get more money, then my life will become better. That is cruel. That is the trap that Rich Dad wants these boys to avoid, and that is the trap that we also should learn how to avoid. Money should not run people's lives. Don't let money run your life, is the advice Rich Dad gives. A soft ball rolled under our table. Rich Dad picked it up and threw it back. So, what does ignorance have to do with greed and fear? I asked. Because it is ignorance about money that causes so much greed and fear, said Rich Dad. That means if you don't know about money, if you don't have knowledge about money, that will lead to more greed and more fear. Let me give you some examples. A doctor wanting more money to better provide for his family raises his fees. By raising his fees, it makes healthcare more expensive for everyone. It hurts the poor people the most, so they have worse health than those with money. Because the doctors raise their fees, the attorneys raise their fees. Because the attorneys' fees have gone up, school teachers want a raise, which raises our taxes, and on and on and on. Soon, there will be such a horrifying gap between the rich and the poor that chaos will break out and another great civilization will collapse. History proves that great civilizations collapse when the gap between the haves and have nots is too great. Sadly, America is on that same course because we haven't learned from history. We only memorize historical dates and names, not the lesson. Aren't prices supposed to go up? I asked. In an educated society with a well-run government, prices should actually come down. Of course, that is often only true in theory. Prices go up because of greed and fear caused by ignorance. If schools taught people about money, there would be more money and lower prices. But schools focus only on teaching people to work for money, not how to harness money's power. Now you see this, how everything is interlinked. Rich Dad is telling them about how everything is interlinked. Why prices go up? Somebody wants more money, they raise their fees. Now those who are affected by that also want to increase their money, increase their fees. Goes on and on. Think about it. What is the biggest thing that everybody spends for in our country? The biggest things that the people spend for in our country are education and healthcare, because a lot of people think education is a very good business to do, and they start increasing their fees, increasing the cost of education, making it expensive for common people to get education. And when the cost of education becomes very very high, everybody who wants to access that education will have to make more money somehow, by whatever means, to pay for that education, because they want good education for their children, which they feel will give them access to more money again. Look at the trap. This is a very complicated trap and a very big trap that everybody is falling into. So likewise, the other professions also, if a doctor increases his fees just because he wants to make more money, or he everything else is increased, it goes on and on and on. There is no end to it. If the government is right, if the government is properly aligned to the needs of the people, then the prices should come down, is what Rich Dad says. But don't we have business schools? Mike asked. And haven't you encouraged me to go for my MBA? Yes, said Rich Dad. But all too often, business schools train employees to become sophisticated bean counters. Heaven forbid a bean counter takes over a business. All they do is look at the numbers, fire people, and kill the business. I know this because I hire bean counters, and they think about is cutting costs and raising prices, which cause more problems. Bean counting is important. I wish more people knew it, but it too is not the whole picture, added Rich Dad angrily. So, is there an answer? Asked Mike. Yes, said Rich Dad. Learn to use your emotions to think, not think with your emotions. Again, an important statement to remember, especially for children, especially for youngsters, and for everybody in general. Learn your emotions to think, not think with your emotions. I'll give you an example. You are angry about somebody, and if you think with your emotions, if your emotions are driving you, you will either scold them, whatever comes to your mind, you abuse them, or if you have the power and if you lose your mind so much, you might even beat them up. That is thinking with emotions. But what should you do? What should you learn? What should we all learn? Is to use emotions to think. When somebody makes you angry, you should think, why is that person so angry about me? Why is that person talking like this? If you start thinking about the reason behind those actions, then you will start making sense of it, and you might actually make the other person start respecting you more and more. You see this? Learn to use your emotions to think, not think with your emotions. Remember this statement. If you want, make note of this statement. When you boys mastered your emotions by agreeing to work for free, I knew there was hope. When you again resisted your emotions when I tempted you with more money, you are again learning to think in spite of being emotionally charged. That's the first step. See? These boys were tempted by the offer of more money, but they thought that no, wait, let us learn what Rich Dad has to teach and not get attracted by more money. That is what you need to practice. Don't get attracted by short term attractions. Don't get carried away by short term attractions by compromising long term benefits of knowledge. What is that? Why is that step so important? I asked. Well, that's up to you to find out. If you want to learn, I'll take you boys into the Briar Patch, a place almost everyone else avoids. If you go with me, you will let go of the idea of working for money and instead learn to have money work for you. And what will we get if we go with you? What if we agree to learn from you? What will we get? I asked. The same thing Brer Rabbit got, said Rich Dad, referring to the classic children's story. Is there a Brer Patch? I asked. Yes, said Rich Dad. The Briar Patch is our fear and greed. Confronting fear, weaknesses, and neediness by choosing our own thoughts is the way out. Confronting fear, weaknesses, and neediness by choosing our own thoughts is the way out. Choosing our thoughts? Mike asked, puzzled. Yes, choosing what we think rather than reacting to our emotions. Instead of just getting up and going to work because not having the money to pay your bills is scaring you, ask yourself, is working harder at this the best solution to this problem? Most people are too afraid to rationally think things through and instead run out the door to a job they hate. The tar baby is in control. That's what I mean by choosing your thoughts. And how do we do that, Mike asked? See, Rich Dad is talking about a very important thing. You have to choose what you think. Most of the times, what happens is whatever goes on in our mind goes on, and we don't control what goes on in the mind. We are just being victims of everything that goes on in our mind uncontrollably. We have to start learning to choose what we will think. If a negative thought comes, we have to consciously create a positive thought and repeat the positive thought in our mind until that positive thought becomes the natural thought process. If there is a thought coming in your mind that I will not study today, let me do it tomorrow, you have to create a counter thought. No matter what, I will study every day. Every day, studying every day is the most important thing that I have to do, and I will do it at any cost. If that positive thought is being generated, that will become the natural thought process for you over a period of time. So that is very, very important. And how do we do that, Mike asked. That's what I'll teach you. I will teach you to have a choice of thoughts rather than a knee jerk reaction, like gulping down your morning coffee and running out the door. Remember what I said before, a job is only a short term solution to a long term problem. Most people have only one problem in mind, and it's short term. It's the bills at the end of the month, the tar baby. Money controls their lives, or should I say, the fear and ignorance about money controls it. So they do as their parents did. They get up every day and go work for money, not taking the time to ask the question, is there another way? Their emotions now control their thinking, not their heads. Can you tell the difference between emotions thinking and the head thinking, Mike asked? Oh, yes, I hear it all the time, said Rich Dad. I hear things like, well, everyone has to work, or the rich are crooks, or I'll get another job. I deserve this raise. You can't push me around. Or I like this job because it's secure. No one asks, is there something I'm missing here, which would break through the emotional thought and give you time to think clearly? You see this? You Why do you go to school? Because everyone goes to school. Why do you study? Because my teacher wants me to study. Why do you write? Because I've been given a punishment to write. Now you are reacting emotionally. Everybody wants you to do something, that's why you are doing it. You want to do that because otherwise you will not be able to get what you want. But if you start thinking, what is it that I am missing, because of which my scores are not improving? If you are not getting good marks, if you are not able to understand what you are studying, instead of reacting to that emotionally and telling that no, I can't understand anything, I don't have the ability to understand, or the teacher is not teaching well, or this and that, complaining about things, if you start thinking, what is it that I am missing that can help me understand better, you will start thinking about solutions to improve your understanding. That is what is important. As we headed back to the store, Rich Dad explained that the rich really did make money. They did not work for it. He went on to explain that when Mike and I were casting 5-cent pieces out of lead, thinking we were making money, we were very close to thinking the way the rich think. The problem was that creating money is legal for the government and banks to do, but illegal for us to do. There are legal ways to create money from nothing, he told us. There are legal ways to create money from nothing, he told us. See, something that is exactly opposite of what normally people think. If you want to earn more money, if you want to make more money, you have to invest a lot of money. But Rich Dad is telling there are legal ways to create money from nothing. That means not having enough money, but yet you can create a lot of money. That is what Rich Dad is talking about. I'm sure all of us are interested in knowing those things. Rich Dad went on to explain that the rich know that money is an illusion, truly like the carrot for the donkey. It's only out of fear and greed that the illusion of money is held together by billions of people who believe that money is real. It's not. Money is really made up. It is only because of the illusion of confidence and the ignorance of the masses that this house of cards stands. He's breaking down, or he's destroying the idea that most of the people have. He says money is an illusion, brahme. Money is an illusion which is not real. It is only because people don't understand wealth, people don't understand it clearly, this is all sustaining, this is all standing. He talked about the gold standard that America was on, and that each dollar bill was actually a silver certificate. What concerned him was the rumor that we would someday go off the gold standard and our dollars would no longer be backed by something tangible. If that happens, boys, all hell will break loose. The poor, the middle class, and the ignorant will have their lives ruined simply because they will continue to believe that money is real and that the company they work for or the government will look after them. We really did not understand what he was saying that day, but over the years, it made more and more sense. See, you should understand something about the economy. Money, many times people ask, there is so much problem for money, why can't the government print more money and distribute it to people? Think about these things. I will not give you explanations for this, but think about it. If there is money problem and the government has the power to print more money, why doesn't the government print more money and distribute it to people? Then problems will be solved. If there is more money circulating in the economy, it will lead to inflation, price rise, fall in the demand, for fall in the increase in the prices of commodities. Lot of changes will happen if there is more money. Why is that? What is it that will determine the size of an economy, the strength of an economy? Rich Dad is talking about gold standard, the reference point for money. What is it that will tell that a country is rich or poor? The currency of that country is valuable or not. We will understand all of this. Just like Robert and Mike did not understand anything about it when Rich Dad spoke about this. Many of the people who are listening to this reading also would not have understood what this means. But over the course of this book, we will understand. For Robert, over the years, it made more and more sense. And this book has come out after all those years of experience and learning from Rich Dad and life and his own businesses for Robert Kiyosaki. For us, we have the advantage of learning all of that from this book. So, as we continue to read what we did not understand in this last part of today's reading, we will understand as we keep moving forward in this reading. So, we will end today's reading, and tomorrow, when we meet again, the next part of the reading is seeing what others miss. So there is something that most of the people will miss, will not see, ignore to see. We need to see what that is. So we will start tomorrow's, we will continue with tomorrow's reading by starting with seeing what others miss. For now, we will end the reading and meet again tomorrow to continue reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad. As usual, 5-10 seconds to see if any questions come my way, or if not, we will just conclude the session. Thank you. Good night, everybody. And as I always say, go back to bed, go to bed with the thought of whatever you learned today. Let all these learnings keep repeating in the mind, and let it all consolidate, and let it make you super strong to be capable of doing everything that you want to do in life, and make you strong to contribute to the welfare of the nation. Thank you. Good night.